Good evening, Director, Superintendent Yee, and team. My name is Chris Chapman. I'm the Executive Director of African American Male Achievement, as well as the Lead Director for the Voluntary Resolution Plan. Improving the educational outcomes for African American male students has been at the forefront of our district's work since 2010. In 2010, our district created the Office of African American Male Achievement, AAMA, to foster practices that accelerate the development and achievement of African American males and address the disproportionate suspension rates in our district of African American males. Since the creation of the Office of African American Male Achievement, the district's ongoing work has included many initiatives and strategies aimed at reducing the disproportionate suspension rate of African American males. Some of those strategies are developing a full-service community schools that, in addition to high-quality academics, provide wraparound services and attention to students' social and emotional needs. Reviewing and promoting national best practices for reducing racially disproportionate suspensions. Focusing on reducing defiance as a basis for suspension and establishing a definition of defiance district-wide. Rejecting zero-tolerance strategies as counterproductive. Adopting restorative justice principles that change the approach from punitive discipline to restorative practices, emphasizing the harm caused and supporting the offender and providing reparations to the victim. Definitely want to acknowledge Brother Eric Butler and Fanya Davis for the extraordinary work they've done at Bunch to actually eliminate disproportionality in suspension rates as well. Introducing positive behavioral intervention and support strategies, PBIS, to teach and reinforce positive school-wide behavioral expectations that are fair and equally applied to all students in all contexts. Implementing manhood development classes at 8 of our high schools and 5 of our middle schools to engage, encourage, and empower African American males, producing a positive impact in attendance rates, a decrease in discipline, and improvement in GPA and program participants. On September 27th, 2012, about a year ago today, the Oakland Unified School District School Board voted to enter into an agreement between Oakland Unified School District and the United States Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, to enter into a voluntary resolution plan to resolve a compliance review of the district's discipline of African American students under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Under the agreement, Oakland Unified School District is committed to applying school discipline policies and practices in a manner that is in compliance with Title VI and its implementing regulation and reducing all disproportionate suspensions. The 5-year agreement with OCR will be implemented in 2 phases. Phase 1 was implemented in the 2012-2013 school year. Phase 2 will span from 2013-2014, this year, through 2016 and 2017 school years. Next slide, please. While we're waiting on the next slide, I just want to acknowledge one of the other things that our department has really pushed hard on, and I feel it's been embodied by the culture of our school district, is trying to recognize the beauty and brilliance of African American children from preschool to 12th grade. We've started, and this will transition, but October 22nd we'll be offering our 4th perfect score celebration of African American students that scored perfect on the state standardized tests. Not only has this been recognized locally, it's also been recognized nationally in Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine. Dr. Julianne Mulveau and Dr. Cornell West has also acknowledged the collective efforts of our teachers and our community of the beauty and brilliance of our African American children. And the picture that you saw of 2 of our children holding up their plaque was from last year's celebration. Moving forward, in phase 1, one of the things that we really wanted to do was, when you look at the voluntary resolution plan, it's really a legal document of which, when you talked about it, most of us in the community and from a parent perspective and student perspective didn't necessarily know or understand what really reducing or eliminating disproportionality in suspension rates for African American males. So one of the things that we did was come up with an elevator pitch that I'll share with you right now. The Voluntary Resolution Plan is an agreement between the district and the Office of Civil Rights to reduce unequal discipline of our African American students so we can keep them in school and make sure they graduate. We are creating a school system that makes our African American students feel they belong and matter to us. By listening to and partnering with families and organizations, we are developing the culture, the climate, and the conditions for success. It is our goal to transform our discipline practices from punitive to restorative and nurturing. So that was one of the outcomes of Phase 1 last year. Also during Phase 1, we reorganized and reallocated key lead staff to spend approximately 30% of their time in interdepartmental and cross-functional working groups. Last year, we created the infrastructure and central system supports to meet key deliverables. In 2012 and 2013, we accomplished the following. Next slide, please. Thank you. We appointed myself, Chris Chapman, as the lead for the Voluntary Resolution Plan with the day-to-day responsibility of supporting the implementation of the agreement. We identified a response intervention program that supports reduction in suspensions for schools in the initial Voluntary Resolution Plan cohort. This cohort is comprised of those schools with the highest disproportionality in suspension by race. We developed a trauma-sensitive services and implementation plan for cohort schools, identified possible revisions to board policies, of which you'll be reviewing soon, administrative regulations and district agreements related to discipline, created a draft of a district-wide transforming school culture handbook, administered an annual survey to measure school climate and relationships within school communities, developed a school-based student staff discipline forum in 33 of the VRP cohort schools. And I definitely want to acknowledge the extraordinary work of Raquel Jimenez, who spearheaded all of that work last year to lift up student voice. We offered an information program to parents and guardians of all OUSD students that explains disciplinary policies, identified the necessary changes in the student database called ARIES, requiring to meet the reporting and evaluation requirements of the agreement, including tracking site-based discipline and teacher-initiated suspensions leading to a universal referral form, of which we'll be rolling out this year. Created alignment and collaboration with SCL and LCI. Launched a Transforming School Culture Institute this summer for 38 voluntary resolution plans to build the capacity of our principals to begin to have conversations around race, class, culture, and implicit bias. We created an SO training syllabus that hopefully will get funded tonight for a 4-day SSO training to be implemented in Phase 2. During Phase 2, and we can go to the second slide, or the next slide, I should say. During Phase 2, for 2013-2014, we will continue the professional learning and building the capacity of our leaders, teachers, SSOs, and support staff on culturally responsive pedagogy, engaged instruction, social-emotional learning, and restorative practices. We will launch a listening campaign in the months of October and November to lift up the voices and experiences of our school leaders, teachers, and students to deepen our central office understanding on how we support site leadership and plans, how we support school culture teams, and inform professional development plans for this year and next. With the addition of Mark Triplett, Director of Instruction for Middle School, and Kevin Taylor, Network Executive Officer for High Schools, we're able to provide continuous improvement through our middle schools and high school principal meetings. We will be completing case studies of schools and best practices within Oakland Unified School District to disseminate throughout the district. We will also lift up and codify the best practices within Manhood Development Program that can be generalized to all classrooms throughout the school district. The official annual report to the Office of Civil Rights is due on September 30th, 2013, and we'll make available the final report to our Superintendent Yee, who will distribute to the rest of you, all of the directors. OUSD has worked closely with the Office of Civil Rights all year as the work was in progress, and we collaborated on many key items for year one. For example, the revised board discipline policies, the universal referral form, and the new discipline guide, which we're calling the Transforming School Culture Guide, that is still in development. There are gaps in funding large pieces of the work in the Voluntary Resolution Plan. For example, professional development at all levels of the system. This requires stipends, release time, extended calendar, trainers, materials, and etc. Scaling up and providing adequate support for promising and evidence-based strategies and interventions such as restorative justice and manhood development and PBIS. And documenting and sharing best practices within Oakland Unified School District. The $700,000 investment that we're requesting is focused on building the capacity of the adults in our school system to be able to engage, encourage, and empower African American students. This is accomplished primarily through professional development, learning, and creating ongoing learning communities with our leaders and staff. We will create new tools to help sites develop plans to reduce suspensions and build positive school culture and climate. Also, funding will invest in strengthening and expanding restorative justice and expand manhood development. The outcome of this investment is delineated in the balanced scorecard and the strategic goals for schools, a 25% reduction in suspensions for African American students. We have a plan to evaluate the effectiveness of RJ, PBIS, and manhood development as well. There is an effective structure in place to plan, monitor, and accomplish the work of the VRP through the lead team and integration with the middle schools and the high school principals meetings. There are 2 VRP board report presentations scheduled this year in November and February. The Urban Strategies Council is a partner who will be conducting the formative assessment as well, which includes review of our reports to OCR for a third-party analysis of our work, which will be shared with the public as well. This was built into the VRP to ensure transparency and accountability. Thank you for your leadership, advocacy, and support.